Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Roundup Podcast. Today we have another episode of Inside Soundsport. Today we're talking with Tom Farr and Austin Hall of the Troopers Legacy Corps. Tom is the director and Austin is the program coordinator. Welcome to the podcast, guys. How are you today?
We're doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for
Absolutely.
having
Glad to
us.
be here.
Of course. Alrighty, as we jump right in here, can you guys tell me a little bit of your backstory, your marching history, if you have marched, and how you got involved with Troopers Legacy Corps?
Austin, you want to start?
Sure, yeah. So my marching history, I marched in the A Corps with the troopers in 2016, 17, and 18. Marched with the cadets in 2019. I've been involved with the Troopers Legacy Corps since 2022. Just kind of like I was the visual coordinator for the 2022 and 2023 seasons, and then for the 2024 and this year. Been the drill writer, and then this year I've taken on the role as program coordinator as well. Just putting the show together for Soundsport this year. It's been a wild ride. We're having some fun with it though. Really enjoying everything that we're doing. I think we got a great one. We'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I started in drum corps in 1966. I was 9 years old, never played a horn, decided to play French horn. Valve, slide, French horn, that's where I started at. I marched in a corps out of Pennsylvania called the Belvederes. They're out of Schuylkill Haven, Pennsylvania. I marched there about 11 years until I aged out. And then from there, I've been bouncing around alumni corps. I lived in the Boston area, so I played with St. Kevin's Emerald Knights, the Defenders alumni, the Legends of Boston, which is made up of corps from all over the Boston, New Hampshire area. And then I'm playing mellophone. So, it's been a fun experience. As far as getting involved with the Legacy Corps, that was a funny story because I was sitting at a tribute. Our past director of St. Kevin's had passed away. And one of the other mellophones, Dana, who's also one of the other co-directors, was sitting there and he says, I'm going to go march the troopers. And I go, well, what do you mean? Because we really didn't hear a lot about the Legacy Corps when it first started because it was really based on they wanted true alumni instead of just opening it up.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's how I got involved. And then from there, I joined and marched Legacy Corps 21, 22, 23, became the director in 24, and then here I am in 25. So I haven't played the last 2 years.
Okay.
So the good part about what we have done in the past, a lot of the corps I marched in, we played other arrangements from anywhere from Bridgman arrangements to Spirit arrangements to Blue Devils arrangements. So you get a lot of exposure. And coming to the Legacy Corps, I think the first year I saw the troopers was 1969. So, how can you not be a fan of the early troopers? Yeah. And that's how we got involved with the troopers and why we wanted to keep it going, keep that history of preserving the history of the old troopers with today's day and age of members might not knowing who the troopers were. So, yeah.
Cool. So, how did the Troopers Legacy Corps get its start?
So the way the drum corps started was back in 2018. I was still of marching age. I had no idea this was all going on. It was at the Casper show in 2018. There was a group of alumni that were gathering at the bingo hall. Correct me on this if I'm wrong, Tom, but there was a group of alumni gathering at the bingo hall said, we need to do a legacy corps. We need to do an alumni corps for the troopers. And there's I want to say 20 people in that room, and next thing, and no one is like, all right, who wants to do it? No one raised their hand except for one person. Pat Shagnon raised her hand and said, let's do it. And she put it all together, and the rest is history.
When you think of trying to pull a group of people together from the year span of the troopers, and understanding that at some point in time, the troopers were a transient corps, were people coming into troopers. They were getting experience in drum corps, and then they might go to the Blue Devils or the Blue Coats or Santa Clara. You know, I guess part of that true alumni that they weren't necessarily all aging out of the troopers, and they were aging out somewhere else. So it was I think for Pat, it wasn't a difficult decision. I think she really wanted to bring this up and bring it on the field, and she did an outstanding job. I mean, you really have to consider what we do, unlike some of the other alumni corps that go on to the field, and to pull this together in also a difficult time because you had COVID at that same time too.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think people realize. I know other directors don't realize until we start talking about what our rehearsal schedules are and what we try to do, and what we try to pull together in basically a week's worth of time. It's amazing with the talent of people that we have within the Corps, whether it's an instructor or whether it's the members themselves or the admin staff. It's a lot of work.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the amount of work that is done virtually by just the individual performer is just it's more than most places, because in the past we really only have 3, 4, 5 days to put something together. So you have to come in, learn, know your music. You have to know all that stuff. And there's Zoom rehearsals and stuff that we do, but with the actual drum corps, pretty much every year we've only had 4 or 5 days together from front end to back end every single year, and that is it.
Yeah, I think if you saw the performance of 23, and just to tell you how great of a job Pat has done with their staff and everything, is we came together and learned a whole marching show in hours.
Yeah.
You know?
It was about 50 sets of drill. We learned it in, I want to say, maybe 20 hours of total rehearsal.
Yeah.
Are you serious? Wow.
Yeah. We started on a Monday. We rehearsed on a Monday all day, a Tuesday kind of half day type thing. Wednesday we did a stadium rehearsal, and that was kind of a half day as well. And we put it all together, and it worked.
Yeah, I think the only thing we had when we didn't have finished was the ending. That it was, we just learned the ending like hours before we finished the night before, and then we were in the stadium, taking in the awe of Lucas Oil and how the field felt compared to the field that we were rehearsing at the American Legions we were housed at.
Sure.
Yeah, we're kind of unique. I mean, our rehearsals are done by Zoom. They're done for the brass line. As an example, the brass line rehearses, gets together one day a month for about 45 minutes. So you really have to take it on to yourself as an individual to work with the music. I mean, and Sarah Wagner, our brass caption head, she does a wonderful job of explaining and interpreting the music for us, so that after you get done with that rehearsal, that you know exactly what she wants, and now you just have to work on those parts and putting it together. And then we come together, and it's absolutely floors you when you come together for the first time, whether it's a tuning sequence or whether it's just Battle Hymn Chorale that you play for the first time. And in Indy, we had 118 horns playing Battle Hymn for the first time, and it just blew you away because it sounded like, God, you were practicing every week as a group.
It sounded like a drum. It sounded like a DCA, I guess, all age corps. It was like, oh, we've been doing this since May. We've been doing this since the beginning of June. No, we had a lot of us met in person for the first time.
Yeah.
Hours before that happened.
Wow.
Well,
That's
we have
incredible.
we have a lot of, we created a lot of section leaders, and the section leaders now have if not weekly, bi-weekly rehearsals.
Yeah.
Or bi-monthly rehearsals with their section. So they take what Sarah has done with hers, and everything is videoed. So all our rehearsals are videoed, so that if you miss the rehearsal, you can go back and watch that video and understanding that interpretation of what's happening. And it's kind of the same way across the board with our percussion and our color guard. Think of the color guard. First time they get together as a group is the first day at Indy. Everything is done by video. You send in video auditions, video assignments that we have. And it gets easier than it necessarily was the first time you were thrown into that. It's a little intimidating the first time, that especially for us older people that aren't tech savvy, to go in and play into a YouTube camera and or a video camera and post it on YouTube what your video assignment was. It's intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Now, are you guys planning to go into like all age in the future, or are you going to stay in the Soundsport?
No, we're basically, our mandate when we came. So what? Let's go back a little bit. So in 23 was after Indy. That was our last performance. So that core, the Legacy core, was built for the 65th anniversary, and then after that 61st anniversary, that show, everything was gone. The drums were sold to the Sunrisers. Mm-hmm. All the money was donated back to the A core that was left over. So there was no plans beyond Indy for the core to move forward. However, members wanted it to move forward. So what ended up happening through our chats, our private members groups, people were saying, "Hey, I'd like to have this go forward." And I said, "Well, if you go forward, let's do it as a Soundsport." And everyone kind of like, "Oh yeah, let's go, let's do that." But no one would step up. It's a big project. It's not simple.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So eventually in October of 23, there was enough chatter around that myself and two others put in a business proposal into the troopers to keep it going. So where we had listed what we wanted to do and why we wanted to do and how fiscal responsible and how we were going to, raise money, because, it's a lot of money for us. It's a lot of money for the members for a week. The members pay for their hotels, the members pay for their food, members pay for their transportation out. So it isn't like we're getting on a bus in a town and driving a bus in. We're all coming in, we're all flying in, there's people driving in. So it's I don't want to say a drum corps vacation, because I want to get out of the words of that vacation, because you have to really love it to come out and work as hard as you need to work.
Mm-hmm.
People that are in their 50s that aren't outside, they're in an office, they do an office job all day long, and then they have to come out and they're in 80, 85 degree weather for 12 hours of rehearsal.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's monumental. So, we might not be the most perfect drum corps out there, but we don't meet every week. We don't have camps every week. We don't even have a camp at this point in time. We'll meet this year. That Sunday night, we'll have a meet and greet. We'll have our check-in. And then Monday at 9:00, we're on the field starting to learn drill.
Oh, yep. Wow, okay.
And then hopefully by the end of Monday night, we're a little bit more than halfway through the drill. And then maybe we'll have an ensemble that Monday night, so that, the brass and the horns can get together and play for the first time ever.
Mm-hmm. That is remarkable how you guys are really pulling it together with the resources that you guys have, and really taking advantage of working on Zoom or on YouTube, whatever, just to really pull this thing together. I think it's really commendable what you guys are doing.
Yeah, it's as a member, as being not the director, but being the marching member that I was in 23 and even 22 when we were in Cheyenne and Fort Collins. It's an unbelievable feeling of accomplishment, of being able to come out there and basically do all this yourself. Because in 23 I was learning drill at my high school field, so I had my UDB app, and we're sponsored by UDB, and you're in there and you're doing your drill, and you're leading up to you get to Indy. You want to make sure that you're hitting some targets. But I can tell you, it's completely different when you have the whole corps there. You got people in front of you, you got people alongside of you. Those targets aren't necessarily there now that you had set up. So yeah, it's a lot to do in a short period of time. It's in some cases exhilarating and very exhausting at the same time.
Oh, I bet. That's crazy.
Yeah.
What are the goals and mission of the Troopers Legacy Corps?
Well, I think we have a couple sets of goals. One of the goals was that we wanted to preserve the history of the Troopers. So if you look at the Troopers alumni and you look at Drum Corps today compared to Drum Corps back in the 70s, you hear everything about the fighting in and out, that it's not real Drum Corps today. Well, these kids are amazing. I disagree. I don't know
Oh yeah.
if I was that young back in the 70s if I could do what they're doing now. It's just amazing. However, we're trying to bridge that gap between the older alumni and the newer alumni, because at some point in time your alumni is going to start shifting just based on the demographics and the age of that, and that's what our main purpose is. We're also there to support, and we support the A Corps. You know, we're just another extension of the alumni association for them now. We're raise money for them. We're doing right now. Currently, we're doing Feed the Corps program for them, where we're trying to raise a couple $1,000s through the membership to help them. For meals this year. We've done in the past donated money. Part of the money that we raise fundraising wise goes back to the A Corps at the end of the season. So the Troopers Legacy Corps. We're self-sustaining, so we don't take any resources from the A Corps at all. When we do a fundraiser, the fundraiser has to not interfere with a fundraiser that they're trying to do.
Okay.
And we try to support those fundraisers wherever we can. They just did a on the road challenge coin that a lot of our Legacy Corps members have supported, where you're supporting that Corps that generates a lot of money for the A Corps, as well as being volunteers. I mean, you'd be surprised. I think this year we have members in 37 states, and then in 2 provinces in Canada. So we cover a big area. So if they need help with a souvenir truck, or they need help feeding, or they need help just moving equipment around, there's a big resource pool that they can draw from in those areas.
Okay, cool. What is the process of that you got? I mean, you basically covered it about. So what are the goals for heading into the 2025 season, and so forth?
Well, I think our goals for 2025 was to be able to put a respectable amount of members on the field. We'll be on the field with right around 102 members total. To be fiscal responsible, because like any drum corps, you have to have the money to make everything possible. And that's one of the things that we're working on.
Yeah, biggest thing is putting 100 members on a essentially 60 by 90 floor. It's been a challenge. It's been a very fun challenge, but it's been a challenge nonetheless, because I mean, you look at a lot of Soundsport groups, they're rocking 50, 60, 70 maybe tops, and that's pretty much it. Which is, I mean, that gives you have the space to do what you do, but putting out 100 plus on a Soundsport floor, which is essentially a 60 by 90 WGI floor, it's been a challenge, but we love the numbers that we have. We're very excited with everything that we're doing. One of the biggest goals is put out a great product that the drum corps community can recognize and look at it in one glance and go, that is the Troopers. We want to honor the heritage of the Troopers, while also encouraging younger alumni to come and keep supporting the Troopers year in, year out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and you want to make the alumni proud. There's that special feeling that you want to go out there and you want to make sure that you're doing the best job possible within the time constraints that we work in, and that it's very respectable.
That's really cool. A question for you, Austin. How has the UDB app changed how you write drill and the process of it?
So it's not really changing how I'm writing the drill for everything. It's just making everything a lot more accessible for the members themselves. So like when we all show up on Monday morning at 9 a.m. at our rehearsal facility in Indianapolis, I can just sit there and we don't have to print out anything. We don't have to go, oh, pull your coordinate. Here's your coordinate sheet. Here's your coordinate sheet. I just say, pull out your phones, log into UDB, pull up page one, go set it up. And it's super, super quick and easy. And in 2023, it streamlined rehearsals and it allowed us, we used it in 2023 as well. It streamlined it and allowed us to put the show on the field in almost, I would say, a record amount of time. I've never put a show on the field faster. And if we didn't have that, I do not think we would have been able to put that product out in 2023. Like that's how much of a game changer it was.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I've been watching all the media on the UDB app, and just the features that it has, it's just incredible.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it tells you, I don't know how familiar you are with everything. I don't know if you've used UDB, but
I have not.
when I go in there, when you go in there, it tells you, you can literally look at like, oh, it gives you every single mid set. Like if you want to see count 5 if you want to see literally where you are on count 5 of page 1 to page 2, you can look it up. You can see everything. It shows you exactly where you're going next, exactly where you came from. And it shows you everyone around you. Gives you a video animation of the drill, which actually helps me a lot with writing because it actually makes things more transparent for the members, so you don't have to just look at pictures and try to visualize it. You can literally see how everything is supposed to develop as you go through things.
Now, is it hard for you knowing that you won't see anybody till Indy, the week of Indy? Is that hard for you when it comes to writing drill? Or what is the process that you go through to write the drill and work on a program?
I mean, it really doesn't. It doesn't bother me just because we have the UDB tool. But the only thing that is worrisome for me is honestly just making sure that everything looks good and putting it into the drill writing, and then making it accessible for the members too. Because we have members of almost all ages. We have members who have just aged out from the drum corps, from the A Corps last year, up to, I don't even know how old's our oldest member, Tom?
Well, our youngest member's 15, and our oldest member is 72.
Exactly.
Our average age is 54.
Right.
Okay.
So I have to think about it from a different perspective because I write the majority of shows that I write are high school, so I can't write this drill that only 14, 15, 16-year-olds can do. I have to think about it like an alumni course. Like, okay, I need to actually hold here for a while, so we're not moving all the time and everyone's not winded. So you have to kind of keep that into consideration as well. And that's probably honestly been my biggest challenge throughout the entire process.
Okay.
Yeah, but this year we did something to help Austin in the drill, because we kind of learned that, at least I learned that in 23, was we partnered with Forte Athletics, and they have done a training program. Our members are able to go through a 12-week training program, and if it's optional, we don't force them to do that. It's optional.
We highly encourage them to do it.
Yeah, if people who have done this before with us did the drill and everything and be out in the field, we want to make sure that we're giving every possible tool that that they get some exercise in.
Mm-hmm.
And the proper exercise, because you can always do a lot of stretching and you can do the exercise that you grew up with, or us old people have grown up with, but it's not necessarily the right exercise to do. And so that's what we did there. We get into, like, when we're in July, we'll be in a hydration program where we're telling people, this is how much you should be drinking. This is what you should be drinking. Because honestly, when you see the A core, you see any of the other cores outside, it takes them about a week to get used to that heat and being outside.
Yep.
And we basically have a day. So your first day you're going to be pumped up. You're going to be all excited. The weather, if it's hot out, it's not really going to hit you. But come the third day, all of a sudden you're going to you're not maybe you're not drinking enough. You're going to start getting cramps. So there's all those things that we have to worry about, making sure they're getting the right fluids, whether it's Gatorade or Liquid IV or whatever other supplements are out there, giving them enough breaks. So it isn't like the old days where you just marched all day long, and if you had a water break, you were lucky. It's, they all have their own little water bottles, and we'll have water breaks throughout the whole thing. But
trust me, I wish I could do it that way. I really do, because I'm the one also running rehearsals there, and I wish I could just be like, all right, we're going for 4 hours. Here we go. You can't do that anymore. I mean,
it's not the old days.
I would love to get 10. I would love to get 10 more reps in every single opportunity I could get, but the member health and the member safety comes first. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that they're having a good experience while also providing excellence to the fans that are watching us.
Yeah, and we have people that had knee replacements, hip replacements, some that are overweight. So when you're out there and you're not doing that day in and day out for the 30 days in spring training like the cores are doing now, and you're coming out there and you're having that focus. It isn't like I don't have to worry about it today. I have to worry about it this time, this minute. I got to make sure that I'm right. So you're using a lot more energy than you normally probably would use. So we have about a 12-person medical staff. So we have licensed in Indiana EMTs. We have a lot of different certifications. We have I don't know what the heart monitor thing is. We have one of those. So we go all out. We're, the focus, we want to make sure all our members are safe and secure as we move forward with everything. We don't take anything for granted.
Yeah, it's so important to keep those members safe. And I mean, we have everything set up administratively. We're going to set our rehearsal schedules to make sure that our members are safe, and we're doing everything that we can to keep them healthy throughout their entire experience so that they want to return at the end of the day. Because I mean, the majority of us are full grown adults, and we have the ability to make that choice to be like, hey, I didn't have a good time. I'm not doing it again. And it's the same thing with kids and A cores. It's like, oh, I didn't have a good time. I want to go a different place. It's the same exact thing. But at the end of the day, all of us are adults, and we have jobs and lives and families and kids and you name it. It's harder to go and make that conscious choice when you're an adult to go, hey, I want to go march this alumni corps or legacy corps or wherever for a week of my life and take my PTO. We want them to come back and keep doing it year in and year out. It's important to us to keep it.
You want to make sure it's an enjoyable event. It might be stressful. It might be straining on your body because if you're not prepared, but the sense of accomplishment. I mean, when we came off the field in 23 after the performance in Lucas Oil, you couldn't get that. You couldn't get that feeling anywhere else, that you were able to do this in a week. Now, with all the prep that we do, but still put together, but we have 218 people. I mean, that's what I say when you think about it. It's an outstanding job that Pat had done pulling this all together, and that's all we have to do. We have to come back and make sure that the things that were taught to us in 23 that we do with our membership in 25. And then as we move forward, this show for us is a stepping stone for the next couple of years. So we won't change all our music 100% between each show. We'll just start adding to it as our performance length of the show gets a little bit longer.
And we're gonna see what works, what doesn't work in person. I'll sit there. I'll probably have a whole binder full of notes saying, "Hey, this worked. This didn't work. We need to change this for next year." But we're going to have our baseline moving forward for the next couple of years, and I like that because it actually it front loads my work at the end of the day on making sure that the show is great. And as we go on, we're going to add more and edit here and there, but we have the baseline of what we want to do, what we're trying to accomplish. Like, if from the first, I guess, design meeting that we had, I think we probably picked out about 15 minutes of music, and then we had to kind of scale it back and whittle it down to basically half, because next thing we knew, we found out, like, I knew about Soundsport. I didn't quite know all the rules and everything, and then the second I found out about our time constraints, and I go, oh crap, this isn't good. We need to cut like 3 or 4 things here, because you want to do all the trooper pieces. Like, you want to go do How the West Was Won. You want to do every single thing that the troopers have done. But it's hard to go, and that was the hardest part for me, picking and choosing what we wanted to do this year. That was the hardest part.
I think that's the hardest part, even when we formulated the plan to go forward. What do we want to do? Because everybody wanted to add their opinion in on what they wanted to do. And even though it's really funny, because I was talking to another director last night, and we were talking about, oh, you're playing the same thing, that you're playing How the West Was Won and all that stuff. I said, but it's not the same. It's totally different. So it's a whole new show for the brass, for the percussion, for the front ensemble, for the color guard. So even though it's the same names, all the show's been rearranged. It has a little bit more continuity flowing between the pieces and not just cut and paste together. So it should be an overall enjoyment to listen to the show from the start to the finish. And again, this is another emotional show for us.
Oh, because, absolutely.
Our show is called Honor, and we're honoring the past, the present, and the future of the trooper membership, and that including people that have passed away in the recent years. So this, when we get down to it, it doesn't seem it right now, but by the time we get into the last number, there'll be a lot of wet eyes.
People will understand exactly who we're honoring. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but people will absolutely understand who exactly we're honoring when it comes to this show. The main people that we're honoring were near and dear friends of mine personally, and we miss them a lot. And they gave such big contributions to the troopers as a whole, and it's so important. And we looked at it in some of our first design meetings, and we said, we want to honor these people. And then we're like, wait a minute, that's our show title, Honor.
Yeah,
that was
what it is.
So it's going to be important. It's such an important thing that we're doing to honor all the past troopers, but especially some individuals who have passed recently.
Yeah, and what not a better place to honor them is at Soundsport in Indy, with all the drum corps fans that are in the stands there, all the people who will follow us on Friday to Monument Circle for that performance. So it's going to be a very emotional ending to the show for us.
That is really exciting. And what was the process of picking the show? I think you went over it, but I wasn't quite sure of how you chose Honor and how you're planning to do that as you continue to grow this organization.
I mean, so we kind of started with the baseline of our 2023 program, and we had a bunch of tunes that we were using, and we said, all right, my whole goal with it was to, all right, how are we going to tell the story of the troopers? That was my original game plan with everything. All right, so we're going to start off with like everything, like starting off with the like late 50s, 60s, 70s type drum corps. And that's what we want to, and that was the whole goal. We want to tell the story of the troopers via iconic troopers music and iconic visual storytelling that the troopers have been known for decades. And so that was really important to me. And then we're still using that basis, but we kind of pivoted when we went on as conversations start going, and that happens with every single show design. You kind of pivot and you keep looking, how are we going to do this? So we started off with the basis music of 2023, and we said, let's rewrite all of this and make sure that we can put it together and tell the story of the troopers. And then, so we have music all the way up. We have music all the way up until a very recent thing that the A Corps has done. And by recent, I mean the past 10, 12 years or so. But that was our goal. We started really old, and then as we go through, we tell the story visually, and we keep moving through the eras of the troopers. And for a lot of you who don't know about the eras of the troopers, like there's a lot of proud alumni, very proud alumni who are from the 60s and 70s, and you get into like kind of the dark days of the, like, for lack of better words, the dark days of the troopers, like thinking 80s, 90s, early 2000s. A lot of those alienated from the troopers because of what happened there. They weren't, and it's sad to see. And it's like, how do we bring those people back and make them proud to be troopers again? And that was my thing. And there's a lot of, and back to Tom's point, there's a lot of transient members, at least in the past 20 years or so, where they're going to start at the troopers in their second year of the drum corps, and then go on to another drum corps like a Carolina Crown, a Bluecoats, Blue Devils, you name it. How do we reconnect those alumni so that they're like, oh yeah, I aged out a Blue Devil, but I'm so proud to be a trooper as well? How do we get those people back? How do we ignite their spark to be proud of where they started in drum corps? And so that's kind of how I designed the show.
I think the same way. I marched in a lot of alumni corps that I wasn't an original alumni member to it. And probably the Troopers was the first corps that you felt part of the trooper organization. You know, when they embraced this 100%, Mike Goff, Mike Ottos, the staff, very supportive. And I think that's what Pat really brought together, is really pushed to make sure that we as members, when she was director, were recognized as part of the trooper alumni. Whether we marched the troopers or whether we marched outside, I think in Indianapolis, 53% were alumni members. And you start seeing, when you start looking at alumni corps, especially up on the East Coast, you know, they're really not bringing in younger members. In fact, some alumni corps don't even have competing corps underneath them. So they're basically a standalone unit that they can't draw on the pride, the determination of the alumni to continue to tell the story of their drum corps. And that's the important part for us. It's an important part for me to make sure that we're always honoring the troopers, no matter what we do. Whether it's our going back to our history nights as the Legacy Corps, talking about Jim Jones's rules, what the rules used to be back in the Casper days, when people were growing up and playing in Casper, to what we're doing now to honor the A Corps. So we want to just be an important part of that moving forward.
That's remarkable. That is really cool. What are your plans as you move past the 2025 season into the years down the road?
Well, when we started in 2024, we sat down and did a 5-year plan to get up to the 70th anniversary. So that way we can have some continuity within our staff. We wanted to keep the same staff all the way across the board. We wanted to keep and build our music all the way across the board, so that when we did our 70th anniversary show, that we were able to tell visually, not only musically, but visually through props, through whatever means, the history of the Troopers from day one all the way through. So part of our plans are based on whatever happens within the Soundsport arena. I think in 2026, we have our membership that wants to go back up to Plymouth, Mass. To compete in the American Hometown Parade and the drum corps concert that's inside the hall. But we're also, again, back to supporting our A-class corps. We could be back in Fort Collins. We could be in Cheyenne, Fort Collins area, or if they come up with a troop con like they did in 2024, we could participate in that. So we're even though we have where we'd like to be in the next couple years, that's always flexible within our membership and also within the schedule that's presented to us. One of the things that we will be doing will be forming a brass choir, and the brass choir would be playing more local events within the Colorado and Wyoming areas, whether if that's nothing but just going out and playing the national anthem or playing at veteran services, playing in the some local parades in Casper. That'll be something that we want to push. We want to get back into the community as far as that goes, and make sure, the community knows who we are, because, at some point in time, Drum Corps went away from the community based because their membership wasn't based community. They were based all over. And how the schedule is, let's face it, Casper isn't in the middle of the U.S. that it's easy to get to. It's up there. You have to really go out of your way, and it's, I think Cheyenne's the 2-hour drive, and Denver is a 4-hour drive. So it's not, to bring members from Denver up to play in Casper is still a 4-hour drive. It's still a good commute for them to come up and play. But that's one of the things that we have planned going forward. And again, we'll do whatever we need to do to support our community, which is the Casper area, and Soundsport, and then the Troopers in general. If that means they want us to come out and play, at TroopCon 26, and if they're going to have it, that's what we'll do.
That's really cool. How have your interest levels been the last couple of years? I heard you said that you have like 100 members this year, correct?
Yeah, we have a little over 100 playing members. We have about 125 between staff and volunteers on the books. Our interest level is really high, but it depends on the venue. It depends on what the costs are. That we have more than, like I said, we want to go to Plymouth because there's a lot of people that like that Plymouth alumni feeling concert. However, when we look at where we want to go, we want to make it worth the while for the membership and not just do one performance. So this year we're doing in Indy, we're doing 3 performances. If we go back into the Fort Collins area, depending on what DCI schedule is, we're looking at 3 performances. That makes it worth our while that we have a shakeout performance where we get, we talked about this year, we come in on a Monday, do 3 sets of rehearsal Monday and Tuesday, do a morning set on Wednesday, and our first public performance is Wednesday night. Then we have our 3 sets on Thursday, then we have a set on Friday, and then we have a performance Friday night, and then we're in Soundsport Saturday. So it's a very tight schedule. It gives us an opportunity that if we have something that would go wrong, that it goes wrong in our preview performance, which is Wednesday night, and we can make whatever adjustments we need, whether it's a timing issue or just getting the nerves out of everybody coming together and playing for the first time. So we want to make sure that when we go somewhere in the future, that it's affordable to our membership, because we want to keep our membership costs down, and we want to keep the members' transportation and housing and food costs down. So we don't want that to be a couple $1,000s for that week of being there. So when we initially started back up for 2024 in November of 23, we had 165 people sign up. So when you looked at it, we had, 65 horns sign up, and it was a good crew. But that gets narrowed down as you start announcing where you're going to go. What takes place is the time of year. We are a July and August, or end of June, July and August first 2 weeks core, because that's when our members can get vacation time, because they all work. So we have to make sure that we're looking at all of that stuff as we're making those decisions. We have offers to do a lot of things, but however, when it gets down to it, do we have enough membership that can, go to Washington, D.C. for a parade, or go up into a spring preview, because, again, we learn everything off-site, and then we got to come and put it together. Is there enough time to put it together and do a respectable show? Now, as we move forward, our instruction is getting better. Our instructors are finding the secret to teach on Zoom, get together. Our section leaders, who I can't say enough about, are doing a wonderful job, just an absolutely wonderful job bringing their sections together and getting those extra rehearsals in and finalizing some of the music that people have questions on, so that when we get to a full brass or full percussion rehearsal, that those questions have already been answered. Excuse me. So it is. It's every year we evaluate what we're doing. We evaluate our admin. We evaluate our staff. We evaluate our membership. We evaluate what went right, what went wrong, what can we do better, how can we, control our cost. So this year is probably, other than 2023, it'll probably be our most expensive year. It's, do we have the right fundraising in place? Because that's what hurts drum corps, is fundraising. Do we have all of that? Are we moving? Are we looking at the long term? Or are we looking just at the short term? So those are all things that we're trying to roll out and do now. In another week, I think we'll announce our ebook, which is our 2025 program book. That will give a little bit more of an explanation of what the Trooper Legacy Corps is about, what it's been done what we have done in the past since day one, and what we're continuing to do going forward. It celebrates our sponsorships and our sponsors and our advertisers. It celebrates Casper, Wyoming. That's as far as our hometown is. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are happening.
All right, Tom, as we get ready to close this episode, I have a couple questions to ask you. What makes
Sure.
Soundsport special to you?
Well, I think what Soundsport does for any corps, not only just for us, it gives us an avenue to perform anywhere at any DCI show that would accept us to be participants in. So without Soundsport and that designation, It'd just make it harder and be limited to the shows that we're able to perform at. And I think
Okay, very cool.
I think if you look at some of the structure, it's for anybody getting into start a music ensemble. I think Soundsport's a great avenue to participate in. You know, the fact that you can go to any, and there's a lot of shows that are looking for additional cores to get in, especially Soundsport, that it gives you a lot of exposure to the drum corps community than it would be if you were trying to pick up shows on your own.
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. And where do you see DCI and Soundsport going in the future? And what excites you about the future?
Well, I don't know if I can answer that question. I think DCI has its agenda, what they want to do. I wish they would focus a little bit more onto the sound sport because it's a growing performance arena for a lot of people that can't afford to have a full-blown drum corps. Let's face it, it's expensive to do things, and it's, you know, it gets harder and harder for members to afford to be in a drum corps, you know, at the tuition rates there are now. So it really limits that pool. Where Soundsport, you know, there's corps out there. I think our membership for our corps is $260. Now, that's just our membership. Doesn't include the uniform, doesn't include your travel, doesn't include your hotel stays, because when we go to our events, we're there a week, and you know, we have, you can have a hefty hotel bill, you know, and we try to, you know, for us, we try to work out a great hotel package. We have a travel planner that's part of the corps. That's what her function is to search out. I think when we going into Indy this year, we contacted 20 hotels, and we found what was the best rate, what had the best amenities for our members, meaning they had a pool, they had a hot tub, they had breakfast on site that we could work into our plan, because for us, we work our breakfast into our plan for a plan, and we look at the cost, what the cost is, and against what the rooms are. So, yeah, we've done pretty good so far in doing that. But if they focus, you know, if DCI focuses a little bit better on sound sport in general, I think you'll see that part of the organization explode. You know, I think I think there's like 50, 55 listed in Soundsport right now, without alumni. So it grows every year that it's been in existence.
Yeah, I do agree. That's one of the things why I started this podcast, because I really want to bring light to the sound sport and open class and even all age, because there's not many other podcasts covering this kind of stuff. And to me, it's kind of sad, because sound sport is growing in leaps and bounds, and I think there needs to be a light and also more advertisement on the DCI side as to what sound sport is and how to get involved and what it actually takes to get an organization like Troops Legacy Corps and all the other groups up and going, and as well as like the evaluation portal where groups are moving from sound sport up to open class for all age. And I think it's so important to highlight these opportunities that are giving people of all ages areas to march, no matter what age they are.
Yeah, you know, if you think of going back into the 70s and in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, a lot of drum corps ran on parent organizations on a shoestring budget. You know, they didn't have the $20 to $30 to $40,000 to go out and buy a set of horns. A lot of those parents used to do a second mortgage on their houses. If they needed buses, they did a second mortgage. So nowadays it's just so hard, and there's so many nonprofits sitting there looking for funding that you have to have a stepping stone to where to go. You just can't say, okay, I'm going to have a drum corps today, and this is what it's going to be, and everyone's just going to look at you and say you're crazy. So now by doing Soundsport, you can go out there with 6 people. You can go out there with 12 people. Your costs are very minimum. You can start setting that foundation of your organizational structure, your marketing structure, all those things and you have the media, which you have online now that helps people that maybe want to be in a drum corps but can't afford the $5,000 to $6,000 range for dues or that amount of time during the summer. So this way it gives you a lot. So I think Soundsport's a great avenue to go to jump into open class and to jump into all age by having, starting off small, having your budget under control, not going into debt. So I think for us, we've been fortunate. I mean, Pat did a great job in getting it off the ground and building the legacy core knowledge to alumni and also people who wanted to be in the troopers that couldn't afford it back in the day. That's what a lot of our membership is. For us, we're able now to keep our costs down low for membership. And now this year, which is the second year of us coming back, let's put it that way, since 2023, we're able to put more media and marketing content together because we have that history of what was done from 2018 all the way up to 2023. I think I sent you our ebook, which is the first time we've done a basic ebook program. And that book was designed to make awareness to people because we're out looking, we talked to Blackstone Grill, we talked to Gatorade, you talked to who are you, what do you do? And you have to go, you feel like you have to go through and explain what the activity is. Now we have the first part of something that we can send out, that we have videos. So I think that's, again, what Soundsport can do, is they can take a small group and make it naturally grow within their cost and means and not just have to pop up with $1 million to run a drum corps.
Exactly. And I think DCI, especially with the new executive director, he's doing a really good job at trying to reach out to other places that aren't typically involved in DCI to get more sponsorships. And I think that as he continues his role as CEO, that it would be great for DCI as a whole and all the classes, whether it be Soundsport, whether it be open class, all age, or even world class. I think it's great where it's going.
And they have, and they've done a lot, but I don't think they've done a lot for Soundsport. I think they could do more. First of all, they should make the January meeting not just focus on the top 12 or the open class, but bring Soundsport in and have seminars that these people that want to start that can and have some marketing techniques. When I was in the DCI January meetings, when we were in our Soundsport group, I said, "Okay, guys, we're looking. We're always raising money. We all have to raise money. If you want to have a front ensemble, you have to raise some good money for that. So I said, what is your best fundraiser? And when they say Panda Express, I'm like, really? Because we do Panda Express too, but it's if you're a small Soundsport organization and if you don't have a Panda Express in your city or town, you're not going to make a lot of money on that unless you have friends all over that are going to go and go in that day and purchase that. So I think even for us, we have, it's an everyday information gathering to find supporters, to find sponsors and individual donations instead of having to go back to our membership all the time and say, hey guys, we're going to do this promotion because we need more money, and I think all the corps are doing that. Some do really good jobs of it. Some don't do really good jobs of it because, again, when you're starting a Soundsport, you don't have a big organization. You have, you have a very small organization, and the directors is probably doing 3 or 4 different jobs. They don't have a dedicated fundraiser. They don't have a dedicated marketing person. So any of those avenues there of how to structure that, how to get more better media content, stuff like that. Like, hey, there's a list of podcast people that will help you. We
Yeah.
had to dig through it, or we looked through people that either knew you or and Michael Lark and knew Michael Lark and his podcast, to get a little bit more airtime and get our message out and get our word out. Because even though we're part of the Trooper organization, we haven't really done a great job of marketing ourselves other than to our alumni and to our previous members.
Yeah, I really think you have to back up there. I really think it's important that we stay promoting Soundsport, and I really hope that changes over the next couple of years. That DCI really starts pushing that Soundsport is important, and that it needs to, because if we don't support Soundsport, there's going to be no more groups coming into DCI, and that's sad if you really think about it.
Well, it is, because drum corps is getting to a point that it's pricing themselves out of their own market at some point in time. And it's great. I like the open corps. I like the small corps. But, everybody wants to be part of a successful organization, and no one wants to start from the ground up to be part of that. They want to go now. They want to try out for the Blue Devils. They want to try out for Santa Clara or for Blue Coats. And, no one wants to start at the small corps, the ones that are touring on a limited tour in open class, and some of the smaller all-age corps. Because, again, all age used to just be on the East Coast for the main part. And if you think what Soundsport could do, and the fact that all age and DCI have combined that effort, I think that's a great advantage to have more all age corps pop up in the Midwest and the West Coast, because now you have some DCI shows that you can go out there and represent yourselves. So there's a huge opportunity, I think, for growth in the drum corps arena. It's just you have to pick it. You have to really support those little corps. It can't just be the top 12. You really have to work at things to help all the people trying to make their way and give them guidance. I mean, there's a lot of great people that have Soundsport corps that know what to do, but then there's a lot of us that really we have to dig and claw and to find that information. And it's could be communicated a little bit better through some sessions in the January meetings.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. What are ways that people can get involved in Trooper Legacy Corps? And do you have to be do you have to have ties to the Troopers to be
the Legacy Corps is open to anybody. I said, I think I said earlier, we have members that were young as 14 years old, and our oldest is 73. In 23, I think we covered over 40 states. Right now, we cover 37 states, and we go through a lot of the same things that an open class corps, as far as our permissions. We have we use Booster Hub, which is a program that was designed for band boosters or club boosters in high schools that we use to track our membership. We have all our websites, all our donations, all go through that. So we have a pretty good handle on our membership and where they're from and what they do. It's not done on like little spreadsheets or anything like that anymore. We have a full budget, within that program, so we can see day to day, real time figures of what's coming in. So to get a hold of us is that I will send you, if I didn't already, I'll send you a QR code where on our website you can go link in, and there's an interest form.
Mm-hmm.
We do have interest forms on Facebook for percussion and interest in brass, but you can just fill out the interest form, and as we get ready to open up for 2023, then we will send an email out to those people that are in the interest forms.
Okay,
and like I said, yeah, it works out pretty good. I mean, a lot for us because of how we are structured and what our events are. Our events usually are a 7-day event once a year, and that's it. So a lot of our membership will look at what their vacation schedule is. Can they make it? You know, we have a lot of teachers. We have a lot of music directors. So we try to work our schedule around what we think the band will be doing and what those directors or assistant directors are doing. So we're not interfering with their band programs. So yeah, and then we have like I said, the interest form goes over a lot of things like that, what you're interested in. We are introducing, I think I sent you the link for our brass choir. Our brass choir is hopefully coming out later this fall, winter. And that's going to be designed around events around the Casper, Cheyenne, and Colorado area where we can go in and perform maybe the national anthem. If the Legacy Corps itself can't make it to an event like Fort Collins, maybe we go in as the brass choir and we go in and do the national anthem and we do 2 or 3 songs as a brass choir, and then we move on. It won't be the full corps. It'd be like 20, 25 people in that to do that. And in the Casper area, the same thing, being able to go around and do things during the holidays, during the Veterans Day, so that we have a group of people that we can say, hey, by the way, there's going to be a veterans program that they'd like to have us come in and maybe play the national anthem and play a couple songs, and we do that. We tried doing that earlier this year, but we really weren't set up for it. And the timing was weird because it was like a Monday. And, for most of our members, including myself, I would have went out from North Carolina, but it's a Monday. So it kind of makes it hard getting in there and working it around your work schedule. But there's going to be things like that are going to happen. It's just another part. Not everybody can take a whole week off, but maybe they can take a weekend. Maybe we can take 2 or 3 days to go up and do an event in the Casper area, So that's what we're planning. That's what we're planning that we can do and have it all work out. And next year we might not. The Legacy Corps might not be at Soundsport next year. Maybe it's the brass choir.
Okay.
So I mean, we have, like I said, we plan out the next 5 years. 1 year was going back to Plymouth because we have a good following in New England. We have a lot of members from New England. And Plymouth is that Saturday night, that alumni drum corps show is a pretty good show. I've done it for a numerous amount of years with other corps. It's a good weekend. We're looking at that for 26 if we are invited back. They've asked us to go back a couple times, and it doesn't fit into our schedule. I think 27, if everything holds through, we'll probably be back in Indy. And then, and then we're looking for our 70th. We're going to approach DCI to see if we can come into Allentown again. The East Coast has been really good to me. And that would be our 70th. Instead of going back into Indy for the 70th, but do it at a regional. And now that they have a couple other things around that regional, we can pick up maybe 3. We can make it a 3-performance type weekend and come in and do a drill. And so everything that we're doing this year is all leading up to the 70th from the music. We'll add some more music as we get going. And like I said, our music, when you look at our music this year and you say, well, you played How the West Was Won and Ghost Riders forever. But all our music has been arranged a little bit different. So even though it's the same titles, the music has a kind of a different feel to it. More, as someone said, a Trooper-esque feel. It's just not put together. It has that feel all the way across the board, from How the West Was Won into Ghost Riders into Ecstasy of Gold, There's a little touches of a couple other songs in that, and then we're honoring Robert Smith this year too, and we're playing his 2013 Battle Hymn as our
cool.
exit. Yeah, so yeah, we're trying to. We're not trying to jump generations. We're still trying to keep everything back into the 70 model for the music standpoint. But we will recognize things that have happened and to honor people, especially arrangers who have been good to the troopers.
That's really incredible, and I'm really excited to see. Hopefully, I can catch you guys on Flow this year. Any closing thoughts as we close out this podcast?
No, I think you're doing a great job with the podcast. It lets us come in and tell a little bit of our story. Gets some new people who maybe don't follow all the drum corps Facebook groups and chats. We haven't done a really good job for us into marketing, and this is just a whole nother step. We have, for us, we have an Instagram, we have our Facebook groups, we have a TikTok account that we just set up that we're starting to post more and more into it. One of our drum majors, he's doing some little video pops every month to show some of the things that happen when we're out on an event. So it's kind of a vacation, but it's a working vacation for us. So for us, unfortunately, we have a hefty schedule to get everything going for our first performance, and after we get through the first performance, it'll get a little bit easier for the rehearsals, and everyone will feel a little bit better after they get that first one under the belt. So for us, we just appreciate anybody that just enjoys what we're trying to do, and we're not trying to be the most perfect drum corps out there, but we're just trying to show a good representation of the troopers of the past and make not only ourselves proud, but our alumni, the original alumni trooper members, proud that they're part of the corps and that we're still part of the trooper organization.
That's awesome. Thank you, Tom, for coming on, and I really appreciate you and Austin both taking your time for this episode. And thank you all for listening to the Roundup, and have a great day.
Thank you. You have a good weekend.
You too.